Hello, everyone. I'm Cagatay. This is Yuho, if you don't know its name. And this is Dash. How many Flutter developers we have here? What? I prepared this talk for non-Flutter people. And how many we have? We don't have. Do we have people who didn't write any Flutter code? Okay. Okay, balanced. But good. Flutter is increasing, right? That's amazing. Do we have the pointer? No? Okay, anyway, let's talk. Also, microphone isn't working. I have to be loud. For some reason, it doesn't work. But today, we have an agenda. We are going to start with status of multi-platform development. It's going to be a bit controversial for native people. And then we have the value proposition of Flutter and Dart. Finally, we will have use at Wolt, but this will be shorter because I have 70 slides. Let's start with status of multi-platform development. Flutter people know this guy. Eric Seidel is the founder of Flutter, who started the project a bit earlier than 2013, I think 2014. Flutter repository was created in 2014, and this year, in October, it will be 10 years of Flutter's repository, the first commit of Flutter. So people think that Flutter is new, but the repo is 10 years old. And Eric Seidel, I met him in Berlin FlutterCon conference last year. He is like, you just sit next to him and just listen. He's talking very wisely. And while I was talking to him, I learned a lot. And I'm also a person who talks a lot in the meetups, conferences. I use a lot of his wisdom. And in these next slides, I will use his slides from the keynote that he gave in Berlin, FlutterCon Berlin. So he started with this. He went to the stage. This was the keynote. He started with why I am here. Because app development is broken. As I said, this is a controversial talk, and Eric Seidel really wanted to stop writing the damn thing twice. Because the static code is, we want to write app, and we have to write this 3 times. Depending on the region, you can start with Android, or you can start with iOS, and even some regions you start with web. Because platforms want you to write for platforms. But you want to write for users. And multi-platform means shipping for people, not for platforms. Okay, multi-platform, but many people know it as cross-platform, right? Why? Because multi-platform has a bad fame. You know why? Because in the past, there were many attempts. They were not successful. Anybody familiar with Cordova? Yes. Ionic used Cordova, and then in 2019, they introduced this capacitor. It is widely used now, especially web developers when they want to bring mobile. It's very successful, by the way. I just learned this because I talked with a friend who is working for a project using capacitor. I thought like there are many Flutter developers, Android developers, but apparently we are in our own bubble. So there are on Twitter people talking about capacitor as well. So there are many projects with capacitor, very popular. So then there was this Xamarin, right? And then they killed Xamarin. There is .NET MAU. It is also from Microsoft. Then there is still React Native, but they have a new architecture. Anybody heard about this new architecture? React Native's new architecture? It is changing a lot, but this change takes a lot of time. Why are these changes happening? As I said, cross-platforms, there were many attempts, had a bad fame, and we want to use the term multi-platform. And Flutter never says, the Flutter people never says cross-platform. They use the term multi-platform, and Flutter has shown that high quality multi-platform is possible. How do you understand that? This is from the data I just got, because this is live. When you click this link, you can go to the Stack Overflow. Number of questions when you compare with other technologies. It's cut over there, but it says Flutter, React Native, Cordova. The blue one is Flutter. Can I take this somewhere? No. Anyway. Then let's see here. Top open source projects contributors in 2023. Flutter is in the 3rd place. The 1st place is Visual Studio. There are 1,346 contributors. And these are just the contributors number, not lines of code. Mike, did you contribute to Flutter repository? Yes. So we have also one of these people inside this here. Flutter is open source, by the way. And what does this mean? This means 3 times productivity, but it is not limited to the number of lines of code. It's also like you have iOS developers, Android developers, you have to manage them. You have a design review. Your developers, iOS developer needs to arrange a meeting with a designer. The same designer should go with that. And then you implement analytics in the code. iOS developer implemented differently than Android, then it's all gone. So 3 times productivity is not only number of lines of code. And controversial again, high quality multi-platform should be the default. But not everyone agrees that. This person shared a post last week. Stop using Flutter, it will die sooner than you think. And send this blog post to your CTO so that it will stop using Flutter in the company, because Google could abandon it, and iOS developers don't like Google technology. I don't know, iOS developers, what you think here. But I don't think this is a reason to stop using Flutter. But Flutter is everywhere, really everywhere, more than what you think. For example, here, in Google, over 30 teams use Flutter. If you use Google Earth now, you open the Google Earth website, you see the engine running behind is C++, and the UI is Flutter. It's the same UI in Android and iOS. There is Supercell here, next here in Finland, in Helsinki. They have the same. They have the games, and then they have this Supercell identity ID, something they are working on, and they embed a Flutter app to their games. Then there is this car entertainment, Toyota, and then there's BMW app. Nubank is the biggest bank in Portugal. Delivery Hero, Wolt, I just heard today Zalando is also trying. MediaMarkt, and these Chinese huge companies like Tencent, the owner of TikTok, or was it ByteDance? I always have this confusion. Anyway, Alibaba is using also eBay. In Finland, there is Burger King. It was done by Flutter developers. Yeah, there are many apps. But why doesn't everyone use Flutter? Yes. And this is the answer coming. Okay, this is Crossing the Chasm. This is a book. I don't know, anybody heard about this book? Yes, product-minded people. So there are technologies, early innovators, then there is this minimum feature set, and then there is this chasm. And not many products jump the chasm. They die in that chasm. But luckily, we are lucky because Flutter jumped the chasm, because we look at the numbers and also what Flutter offers, how companies are using Flutter. So here there is this, according to this data, in 2023, there are around 2.9 million new Dart developers, and Dart grew by 33%, faster pace than Swift and others. You can see the link here. Also, according to 2023 JetBrains data, there are, I think Dart is one of the most downloaded plugins. Okay, so what does this tell us? If high quality multi-platform is there, people are gonna use it. Why is everybody not using Flutter? Because it is still not there for some people. Let's put it this way, at Wolt, we have native apps, native iOS, native Android apps. Many people ask me, is Wolt going to use Flutter for native apps? And the answer is no, because we want to because it's a very competitive area, this food delivery, and we want to get the most out of the platform at 100%, not 99. We want to get the most. And Flutter is delivering high quality apps, but still it is not there, like not native. Native is the best. If you have money, if you have resources, it's amazing. Yes, go for it, but it is not cheap. It costs. But if Flutter comes to a point that it brings the same similar value as native apps, there will be 10 million more Flutter developers. And this means opportunity for us. But also next 10 million developers are different than Mike here. I'm talking about Mike, Alessio, and we have friends here. Like, we really care about Flutter a lot. But the next 10 million developers will not care about Flutter. They want safe, fully ground-up platform. They will use Flutter because they hate Android stuff that Kimmo mentioned, like, why is this changing a lot? And they will have legacy systems Flutter must work with. And they will use migrated state. We have some also conversations here because we have a React Native app, which we are killing. Courier app is written with React Native. We had a discussions like, should it be Flutter or not or something. So there will be talks like that. It's going native, by the way. So there will be costs because we thought about it. There will be costs, and we need people who understand this code. This is very critical business. And there will be people they will need to support, and they will get benefits also from Flutter only offerings, and this is the opportunity. These are the companies using opportunity. There are here consultancy companies. AWS Amplify is giving Firebase style service. There is Mapbox in Finland also doing Flutter. Supabase also AWS Amplify style, Firebase style. And also in web, are you familiar with Storybook from web? Yes, there is Widgetbook for Flutter. There is also Webflow. I'm not sure if you are familiar, codeless, no code. There is Flutterflow correspondence. There is .code metrics that helps with linter. So these are Flutter offerings that are growing because they see the opportunity. Another example here, Headspace app. Do you know Headspace app? It's yoga app. Now they are migrating to Flutter, and it has 65 million users. And see the opportunity here. They are looking for Flutter developer, but this developer is not only going to write Flutter code. They will be the person helping the native developers to learn Flutter. And there is really good money in that. See, as I shared this on Twitter and Eric retweeted me, the job positions for Flutter will be a bit different. They will look for write a Flutter app from scratch and help us move our giant code base to Flutter without breaking our users. So this is the opportunity. And Eric is, by the way, building the product. They just released the 1.0 code push. Code push is something that when you don't need to send your app to reviews. You can just push the code like you are deploying on web. Stores has strict rules, but they have guidance how to comply with these rules. But for example, this is very critical. This could be very critical for Wolt because we have a release. It is not working. There is a bug. Every second we are losing money because restaurants cannot approve, cannot confirm orders. We need to release the fix as soon as possible. This is not a web app. So code push can be really useful here, for example. And again, Eric left the Google team because he wanted to really work on multi-platform. He wanted to fix the problems of app development. And one of the problems of app development is the stores. And Google didn't let Eric fix this. So he quit the company and fixed it. OK, this was the first part. The second part is about the value proposition. Flutter has 4 value propositions. Every release, they are talking about these 4 things. And I will go through them one by one. Let's start with the breakthrough performance. I'm just going to start here with this. This is a very recent release. You see left and right, Mike also helped me to fix this in Twitter as well. So do you see the performance difference here? What I want to show here is that people look at that app and say, Flutter is shit because scrolling is bad. Actually, scrolling can be bad in native apps too. It's about developers. You just need to know how to do it. And Flutter is made to work with 120 frames per second, 60 frames per second. You just need to know to use it best. As you need to use the native apps, you need to get the native performance at 100%. This is Flutter's architecture. But Flutter is really good with FPS, frame per second. But there was a bug that was really annoying. iOS apps, there was jank when they were starting animations. And people were really angry about that. The team worked really hard to fix this. But fixing it required more work. Why? Because they were working in this rendering part, in the engine part. When we are writing the Flutter code, we are in the framework, in this widgets layer, we have the widgets. But to fix that, it needs to do something with the rendering engine. And Flutter works different than native React Native, because Flutter apps are shipped with rendering engines. For example, React Native app uses the button from the platform. Android, it's the real native platform, native button. But Flutter draws its own button, pixel by pixel, and it's shipped with the rendering engine. But this rendering engine is coming from Chrome, the Skia engine. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It is very rock solid thing. Mozilla is using it. Android has it. Chromebook has it. So Skia is also used in Flutter. But Skia was not made for Flutter. And they had to fix this because it was a Skia bug. What they did is they took Skia and forked it, kind of, and then they created a new rendering engine called Impeller. So Flutter has now its own rendering engine that fixes this problem. But remember, Flutter had Skia before, and this was 2D only. But when Flutter started working with its own rendering engine, it opened new opportunities, such as 3D. But it is not always good because, I mean, it's growing. Because Skia was solid. It was from 2006. Now Flutter has its own rendering engine. It's growing. It's not by default. So there will be some time to make it really stable. OK, another thing what I want to talk about is about the breakthrough graphics performance category, games. Games is an area that Flutter is really enthusiastic, thanks to the community. Why? Because Flutter can deliver games in different platforms. For desktop, for embedded, for Android, for iOS. And it doesn't require a license fee, because Unity requires a license fee. So it's a really great advantage. Multiplatform without a license fee. And Flutter knows that. They want to encourage community to build games. And they released this Flutter Casual Games Toolkit. It has some templates, some helper things to write your game. Since the release of this package, there was 15,000 new games on the stores in 1 year, I think. In the last 12 months. So games is an area also Flutter is going to shine. This is another example from Brandon, who is working in the Flutter team. This is actually a Flutter game. As I said, Flutter was 2D. But thanks to this new impeller, it opens the doors for 3D. It is not released yet. It is behind the feature flag. They just need to finish the final work. But then you can have these 3D games with Flutter. But Flutter is competing with Unity. That's not true, because Unity has like really huge resources to build an engine. Flutter gaming is just one area. Flutter needs to really be really good at Android and iOS. And this gaming is also like something that you can do with Flutter. And Flutter team is trying to do their best with their limited resources and with the help of community. Okay, not everyone is happy also about Flutter doing games, because they just said, just give me the best performance, make it as close to as native performance. So please don't change your direction, forget the games, focus more on actual things. But it's not true actually, because Flutter can be very useful in the games. Why? Because there is this AdMob, see the Alphabet Q4 income statement. This is a very recent one. And Google Cloud here, there is AdMob. These are the resources, revenues to the Alphabet. And then it comes as net profit at some point. So why is Flutter team taking care of, like, why gaming is important for them? Because it's an opportunity. Flutter is free, it's open source, but they need to bring value to the company. Yes, they have over 13 plus apps, but Flutter also can contribute to ecosystem, Google ecosystem, because there is this easy integrations with mobile ads, in-app purchase. You can use Firebase, very easy to integrate. So games can be important for Flutter, but it's never going to compete with Unity because the resources are and focus is not the same. Okay, first category was breakthrough gaming. Impeller is coming to replace Skia in Flutter. And there will be migration for iOS and Android. And then there will be core framework enhancements. Flutter has rich material tree library that gives you really great for some people, library to build your app fast. But Flutter is also lacking to support Apple design stuff. It's not giving the same attention because, again, they don't have resources to give the best of best. So this year they said that they will focus more on these Apple design standards and expectations. Okay. This was the first category. And in 2024, let's now see what's going to happen for seamless integration for web and mobile. For mobile, in 2024, Flutter is going to support Swift Package Manager. It was using Cocoa Pass, which was bringing a lot of headache to developers. And also direct invocation from Objective-C, and for like using Objective-C and Swi with Dart. Also, there will be more effort given to developer experience for larger apps to migrate to Flutter. So there will be hybrid. Today, if you really want, you can have a React Native app, and you can embed Flutter inside the React Native app. You can embed Flutter inside the Android and iOS apps. But there will be more focus this year on making this happen. Okay, another thing is web. I took these slides from Kevin's talk, product manager in Google. Everybody is asking me about, like, when I talk about Flutter, you talk about mobile, but what about web? So when Flutter team talks about web, they have two categories, websites and web apps. The difference is here, I'm not going to read all of them, but the static websites, they are text-based, like blogs, like Medium. And then they are more static. It's light, but apps are different. Web apps are more than just website. For example, Figma website is a web app. It's not a website, it's a web app. And it is more dynamic. There are many state machines going on inside, long interactions, code heavy. So Flutter is aware of this. Also, websites written with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, and websites instantly loaded. Expectation is that it's loaded instantly. It's indexability, so when you Google brings you the correct result, brings you to website, easy to reach. But apps are different again. It's more flexible. It's more rich and portable. It can even work as a mobile app, like, PWA stuff. And also, it's not JavaScript. It's using the accelerated graphics for Flutter, utilizing the graphics GPU, web GPU, and then WebAssembly. The point here is that Flutter Web, when people talk about Flutter Web, we are talking about web applications. For now, it's not about the websites. And what is coming for Flutter Web in 2024? So aiming to reduce the application size, enhancing the multi-threading, improving the load times. The first part is very important. In the next slides, I'm going to talk how it's going to happen. Also, SEO, search engine optimization support. So in the previous slide, I said that indexability is important for static websites. And people want to also build static websites with Flutter too, and they're asking for search engine optimization support. Flutter doesn't support it yet, but because of the demand, they will look for it this year. Also, WebAssembly support is coming. You can do hot reload with Android and iOS apps, but not with web apps. They are going to see the possibilities if hot reload will work on web. Third category, early to new emerging architectures. Let's see what's going to happen in 2024 here. We talk about WebAssembly. Are you familiar with who is familiar with WebAssembly? Okay, great. I don't need to talk a lot about this. So WebAssembly has been around for a long time. And it is basically binary format for deploying apps, running the apps. And but what changed about WebAssembly is the garbage collector. Because WebAssembly has been low level, C++ stuff, C stuff. But with the garbage collector now, these high level languages such as Swift, Kotlin, Dart can now compile to WebAssembly and then run their apps in the WebAssembly, with WebAssembly. In fact, Kotlin is one of the first languages done that, and there is this Swift WebAssembly version, and of course there's Dart WebAssembly version. So what does this mean? By default, Flutter Web, again, this is from Kevin's talk in Barcelona. I think this was 2 weeks ago released. Very nice talk. So this is how Flutter works. There is this Dart code you write, and then there is engine, and then below that there is the Skia. This is the graphics engine, which is written in C++. Skia is compiled to WebAssembly, but the Dart code you write and the Dart code the engine has is compiled to JavaScript, Dart to JavaScript. This is how Flutter Web works nowadays, by default. But with WebAssembly, the Dart code will not be compiled to JavaScript. It will be compiled to the WebAssembly with garbage collector. And Skia is already compiled to WebAssembly, so it's totally WebAssembly, all in. Why? Why we care about WebAssembly? Remember, static websites, it is very important to have this load time, initial load time. It should be very fast. But these web apps are not fast to load. The initial load time takes time, and the team is working hard to make it short. So you see here, these are the benchmarks. These are microseconds. You see JavaScript and HTML target. Dart is compiled to this, and Dart is compiled to JavaScript plus WebGL, and below, Dart is compiled to WebAssembly plus WebGL. It's 50,000 microseconds, so you see the difference here to load. But here, it's a bit dark, but you can see some noise also there. Like here, there is noise. The loading time changes a lot. But WebAssembly is also consistent. So WebAssembly promises consistent and fast initial load for Flutter Web. And also, this is the frame time, frame per second. You see here, I don't know if you are familiar with P50, P90. This is about like, there is this thousands of frames. They are measured. And P50 is the median. So 50% of them is loaded in 1.4 seconds for WebAssembly and 2.25 for JavaScript. But when you take the 90 frames, the worst frames, consideration, the performance is 6.73 for JavaScript. It's really visible. Like, so what does this tell us? Better frame per second performance is coming to Flutter Web with WebAssembly. And this is 10 seconds recording benchmark with Apple M1. Okay, WebAssembly is there with garbage collection specification. Chrome supports it now. Firefox has a bug. They are going to fix it, hopefully. Also, Safari, we are waiting for Safari to support it. We heard that they are going to support it. Anyway, WebAssembly is going to be really game changer for Flutter. But it's not enough, so there's more. Because Flutter, you have the full control on pixels, and Flutter can work everywhere you have a screen, including Raspberry Pi here. This is a video from YouTube. You can find it in Google website. They have Raspberry Pi, and then they are writing Dart code, and then they deploy the game. You can play it with this joystick. Moritz is my friend. He is the CEO of Snap, the company. They are giving these embedded services with Flutter. But why we should use embedded with Flutter? Again, license fee. As I said, if you want to build games with Unity, you need to pay a license fee. If you want to develop embedded with Flutter, sorry, with Qt, Finnish brand, you need to again pay here Qt commercial license, but Flutter is free. So, and then it can give you good performance. Currently, there are different phases of this support. Toyota, Sony, they have their own embedded Linux versions that Flutter can work on. But what Moritz company is building is they are giving you an experience when you are building for Raspberry Pi. It's going to be the same experience as building an Android and iOS app, meaning that plug in play. So it is like when you're developing a mobile app, it works. It's going to be the same experience with Raspberry Pi when you use it with your USB to the IDE, connected to your IDE. Yeah, now there are many community projects, tutorials, but their company's vision is providing more services so that, like, this IBM service to these devices, you can control when you have B2B business or something. So they will provide services targeting Flutter. Finally, developer experience that we are really happy because, Dart tried to kill JavaScript. This was the reason why Dart existed in 2011. But JavaScript will not be killed. We know that. Unfortunate, but this is the fact. Yeah. Then Dart evolved a lot. And if you did Flutter years ago and you revisit again, you will see very different things. It is more like Kotlin, more like Swift. I know Alessio don't like Kotlin, but yeah, there is 100% sound null safety, meaning that type safe. There is patterns and sealed classes. So you have here destructuring. Instead of returning one value, your methods can return these structures, destructuring. And also there is patterns. Patterns meaning that it's exhaustive. You have a switch statement here, and if you don't consider all the cases, the IDE will complain. So here you can see an example. I'm not going to go too much details in this, but this is also a very nice example. Nice, I don't know if it's nice or not, but because of patterns, you have these states of your button, and based on that, you can give a color. So you have this record, and based on the state, and this underscore means I don't care it's true or false. So it's like a wildcard. And you can assign your color according to this. Again, exhaustive. If you write here, if you miss one of these cases, your IDE will complain. And finally, sealed classes, which exist in Kotlin. When I was an Android developer, I really missed this feature. Dart didn't have it. But now Dart has it. This also helps us to exhaustive checks. Roadmap, what is coming in 2024 for developer experience? Macros, finally. Another thing that we want a lot in Dart, because Kotlin has data classes. By default, they have this hash implementation, copy implementation, but we need to use code generation for this in Dart for now, but it will be fixed. And also there will be primary constructors like Kotlin has. And there will be more tooling, AI support. Have you heard this IDX? IDX is an IDE, works on website. So you don't need to work with Visual Studio or Android Studio. It's an IDE. But the best part with the IDX is that you don't need a Mac to work with an iOS app. So if you have a Windows window, sorry, if you have a Windows machine, you cannot develop iOS apps. But with IDX on Chrome, you will be able to develop iOS apps because the simulator will run on cloud. And also, okay, some other things are coming as well. Whew, I didn't think that I would come this far. Last part, I will go this fast. Use at Wolt. This is before I joined company. No. Yes, I joined the company when they decided to Flutter already anyway. So they had a customer app, native iOS, Android, React Native app, and native iOS app for tablets. And then we had a case for stores, retails, because Wolt was before only for restaurants. Now we have retails. It's a totally different use case. You need to pick from shelves. You need to manage your inventory of thousands of items. So we needed a new app. We did this new app in Flutter. This app was really good, was helping us a lot. So that we decided to kill the native iOS app and also give this Flutter app to the restaurants, not only to the stores. Why? Because when you talk to a Wolt merchant and tell them that, hey, we will bring you Wolt, but you need to buy an iPad. This is not going to work because buying an iPad for Wolt orders is buying a Porsche for going to grocery stores only. We are working in really, like, this was a great idea, brilliant idea, because iOS native apps gives you the best performance. Tablets, iPads, it's amazing to use. We love iOS experience. Let's give the restaurants, they will use the most of it, but this is not going to work when you expand. Because Wolt is a hyper-growing company, and it requires flexible solutions. You cannot mandate you will use iPad when you are in countries that don't have really good economy. It costs a lot to buy an iPad, right? So one fit doesn't work for everyone, and Wolt needs to grow. We need to provide the best fit solutions for various cases. And we provided it with a Flutter app, and we delivered an Android app with that, not only for tablets, but also for mobile apps, with speed and efficiency. Not only that, we are also doing community contribution. We have 2 open source projects, and one is going very well. I just actually saw a friend of us who has its own Flutter app using our library. We have really great comments. This helps a lot when you need developers, and we really have really great developers. I'm a Google developer expert for Flutter and Dart. There are 100 GDEs in world for Flutter, and we have 2 of them in our team, 7 people of team, and we will have the 3rd one. So we are really trying to attract the top people for not only top by okay, definition of top people varies, but we really want to get the best, work with best to deliver best quality. Another library is this Wolt Responsive Layout library. This was actually from our needs. Why? Because we needed to provide the solution that is responsive, and this is actually a responsive layout grid. Another library we are developing is this bottom sheet and responsive and multi-page. We also have design system. This is our design system tokens, and what problem we are solving, because Wolt cares a lot about the UI and customer experience, and we want to enable theming as well, dark and light theme. So we work together with the design system. They have the tokens. They define the values of these tokens, and we utilize this in our app. And we are the first app in Wolt using these color tokens. Also, we are building a design system components library with widget book. So yeah, the components are developed by the design system and then used in our app. I talked a lot. Thank you for listening. We are hiring a Flutter engineering in our merchant group, but we are actually not hiring a Flutter engineer because we are hiring a software engineer. And in fact, we have Android and iOS developers in our pipeline. And actually, our Android developers are interviewing them because it's a software. I'm very passionate about Flutter. I have my side projects. It helps me a lot to deliver things. iOS, Android, I care about the user a lot. So I just want to give the product. Flutter is a tool that helps me. But in the end, what we are doing is software. And we need good developers. And good developers can learn Flutter very fast. So if you want to change your career a bit from native to Flutter, scan the code. Let's work together. Thank you. Was it a bit too long? No? Okay, 70 slides, a lot. Do we have questions? Yeah, I knew there wasn't questions because I answered everything. Oh, there's one.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
You said that the app privacy manifests are on the pipeline or in the pipeline. I hope that's a bit further along because the deadline is next week.
Yes, shared preferences, for example, is one of these packages. So usually packages are doing that. And in fact, it is already in the roadmap of Flutter to provide this. And it's very important to stay up to date with Flutter. So I heard some product leads think that we don't need to update, we don't need to change because things just work. But this is not how Flutter works. Flutter needs to adapt very fast with the changes, especially with iOS. So there is null safety changed. You need to change a lot when Dart brought this null safety thing. And there are many things that Flutter needs to adapt to cross platforms. So it takes effort to stay up to date, but it is definitely worth it. If you don't get up to date, then you need to do a lot of work when you really need to be up to date. Yes. I'm not sure if it's working, but okay.
Yeah, thanks for a great talk containing a lot of information. You said that the rendering engine is bundled with the app
Yes.
on the different platforms. So what does that mean for the size on the different platforms compared to maybe
Yes.
other alternatives?
And in Flutter website, there is this, okay, I'm not easily going to find it, but in Flutter website, you can easily find it. It's not really significant, but if you are using a debug, okay, we have time, I hope, because I'm going to bore a bit deep. So Flutter apps, okay, Dart is a magic language. Dart can be compiled to many targets. And when you have a debug version of your app, you are developing the app, Dart virtual machine is shipped inside the app so that you have hot reload. When you press Control Save, all the changes reflected in the Flutter app. This is how Dart works, how Flutter works, because it is shipped with the virtual machine, which is big. But when it's release mode, you don't need a hot reload. And it is compiled the same technology that native apps are compiled. So it is binary code in the end. And yes, there is this extra, but do you remember the size of it, guys?
2 point something.
2 point something megabyte of this engine. But yes. Yeah, so it is lighter in the release, but many people judge Dart and Flutter apps, because they are comparing the size when developing. But the release version is much smaller because it doesn't have the virtual machine.
It's not relevant on the apps, but it is on a web, because there you have that well, that's the best compiled Skia version that you have included in. So there it matters because you have to download that before you have to install.
Yes.
Yeah, I expect that 10 times that or something.
Yeah, hopefully this will change, but they are working a lot. And in fact, I think they decreased in 3.7, 30% the improvements, load time improvements. Do we have other questions? Yes.
Do you have anything on medical side? heard last week, using provision, the Brazilian surgeon has performed first time with the provision.
Yeah, we have in fact a company, Signant Health in Helsinki. They are using Flutter for medical apps, medical experiments. Hanno, do you want to talk? I don't know, you want to talk about? Yeah, we have a person here who is working in the health sector doing the Flutter apps. You can ask. Yes.
Because also I was fortunate to listen Jeffrey to
Yeah,
physically also.
but what I want to say is that Flutter works everywhere there is a screen. That's the magic.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's a very critical point of it. And then basically when you showed me the first thing is automobile and then the banking was already open. I was thinking it will be the next thing to the Jason.
If you go to Google Showcase websites, there are many apps, there are many companies that describe how they use Flutter, their stories.
Great presentation.
Thank you. Question? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Flutter is apparently very, very good technology, almost as good as sliced bread or whatever the
I
English
couldn't hear,
phrase is.
sorry.
Flutter is apparently pretty nice technology.
Because I'm just talking about the good things here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what my question is,
Yeah.
but my focus is a little bit more narrow. I'm thinking only about iOS and Android apps. How easy it is to try just a bit of Flutter? Is it possible at all that you try like it one screen at a time and see how it works? Are there going to be huge bridge problems that need like real specialists to figure out like how, I don't know, data goes from one side to another one?
It is very easy. Well, okay, I'm going to answer another question before that. Because when I was interviewed by Google to be a Google developer expert, the first question was, in fact, we asked these questions in the interviews, what you don't like about Flutter? Because we are really like passionate about Flutter, but Flutter is not perfect, first of all. Because there are many open issues in Flutter GitHub. It's open source with limited resources. Google is a huge company, but the team has resources, limited resources. And Flutter is trying to solve many things. Multiplatform. Multiplatform is not only Android, iOS, web. There are so many things. People have different demands. I just shared a slide. One person was really angry because Flutter is doing games when there are many other things. So focus is really important for Flutter, and there are many open issues. This is one thing that is really difficult with Flutter. There are things that are stuck in triage. We are giving a lot of pressure on Twitter when we want to do some changes, and it works. Also, another thing I don't like about Flutter is you want to go, okay, Flutter is really good for companies that have their own design system, because like companies relying on native design system, yeah, they really need to use the native libraries. But for Flutter, especially for iOS, the Cupertino style, the Apple style is not as good as the widgets in this library, is not as good as Material, but they are working on it. You can make your own as well, library. But why it works with us? Because we have our own design system, our own design language. We can customize it. We want to customize it. And I forgot your question. Sorry.
Can I try it one screen at a time in my Android and iOS apps?
Yes.
Will there be huge issues with bridging? Like, React
is no
Native
bridge.
also promises that, but then boom, whenever
There
you
is no
integrate
bridge.
anything.
There is no bridge. Just a second. I want to show you here. I hope people are not bored, but there are 70 slides. Sorry, it take time. Oops. Here. Yes. Yes. So, yeah. So this is the embedder part. And this is like a plugin system, layered architecture. This is the embedder part. This is where your view in iOS. What is called a view in iOS, like single screen activity in Android.
UI view controller.
View controller, yes. Your Flutter code works in this view controller, and your Flutter code works in one activity, because you have the full control of the screen, and you write your code in Dart, and you are working in this widgets layer. You don't care about how it is rendered at all. And the rest will be done by the Flutter system. So how easy? Very easy. Like you just go, write your terminal, Flutter create, and you run the app, that's it. There is no bridge. Bridge is in React Native, because React Native works with the system UI libraries. What does it mean? It means when you have an iPhone, when you have an Android phone, It has its own system UI library written with Java, Compose, Swift, C++. But Flutter's UI library is written with Dart by Flutter team and shipped with the app. This is different, so there is no bridge. But there is platform talks to platform channels to talk with the APIs, local APIs like Bluetooth or camera. It is supported by Google packages. Yeah. Yes.
I think it's possible that in the future, Wolt would use Flutter for all its client apps.
No, I don't think so. And I think it is a really bad idea because we need to, this is a really competitive industry. And we need to give the best to the user. And Wolt is known with the best animations and like speed and really great user experience in the app. You can do that Flutter, but it is risky. And for example, there is this thing that Doug just said, that privacy stuff with iOS. So you need to wait for Flutter team to fix it. But if there is this risk, why are we using Flutter? Because there are more than 30 projects in Google. And if there is something not working, they need to fix ASAP because they have their apps. YouTube Create is their new app. Google Earth, they are using Flutter, and Google is going to kill Flutter, they say. Flutter has been around, I think, stable 2018, but around even earlier. And Google is really like 1998, imagine like 25 years. And half of the year of this Google's life, Dart was there. People thought Dart was going to die. Dart was there since 2011, still living. Flutter is still living. If you are really afraid of this, then you will just see it's working, living, but you won't get benefit from it. So there is risk. You need to understand the risks. Yeah, these are the things that I'm talking in my slides, why we should rely on Flutter. And I want to convince people because I believe it works. At least it works in the projects that I'm in. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.